Hello YouTube, it's Hanging here with Hobbies Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another wrap-up video. Today we're going to be doing the wrap-up video for the month of November. Now, I do apologize in advance in case you see any lighting changes or positioning changes on the camera, because I do have to record this in clips for my own peace of mind. So it might be different here and there. Mostly it's just going to be different between the beginning of the video, the what I watched section, and then the what I read section, right? So, yeah. So let's get started with what I've been watching. So, yeah. All right. So let's talk about what I've been watching this month. So, started with UNREAD, and I watched it twice actually. I watched it once in Japanese and once in English. I liked it both times, although I do think that the English version was a little bit more appealing to me. Well, for two reasons. One, it was easier to just zone out during the movie, if that makes sense. Like, I was able to feel more relaxed watching the movie, partially because I already knew what was happening, and also partially because it's just easier to relax when you don't have to read subtitles. I'm one of the types of people that sees writing and has to focus on that over everything else, and so when I watch things with subtitles, it annoys me because I'm very focused on the subtitles and I'm not really able to truly appreciate the rest of it, if that makes sense. Which is why if I ever watch anything, subtitled or dubbed into Spanish, I choose not to watch it with subtitles, because it's really annoying, especially when I know what it says in English, and then I know what they're saying is different from what is written in the subtitles, and it just bothers me and makes me really annoyed while watching TV. So I try to avoid that as much as possible. But I went with a friend of mine to watch UNREAD, so I had to watch it in Japanese first, and then I went by myself later. And I would have actually liked to go watch it more times, but I didn't get the opportunity to do so. So it's kind of sad, but hopefully it comes out on Crunchyroll soon, or I can get it, in a DVD or something here in the near future. So yeah, UNREAD was awesome. I actually really liked it. I already have a review for it on the channel, but it was a really good experience. If you're not interested in musical type stuff, you might not like it. I don't really like musicals either, but I at least tolerate some of them. I've watched some of them. I do kind of enjoy some of them, particularly the Hamilton musical. But I don't really mind too much. But it is very music heavy at the beginning and at the climax. So if you don't like that, you're not going to enjoy this movie all that much. I also thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the Uta character, and I really hope that she becomes a relevant character in the manga at some point, because the ending was ambiguous enough that she could have survived or whatever, because most one-off villains in these types of movies that usually die. In this case, it's possible that she didn't, and she shows up when we see Shanks and his crew, and that would be really fun. But it doesn't really make too much of a difference. Uta was a fun character. I enjoyed the music scenes a lot, and the story was pretty good, although there was some massive contrivances with how Uta becomes the villain, and the people that are adults that were supposed to be in charge of her not doing so, like Gordon, I think that was his name, and Shanks, of course. So it's a hit or miss in that kind of sense, but everything else was really enjoyable. It's not a canon movie anyway, so it's not like that big of a deal. But overall, it was real fun, and I liked it. And I definitely want to wish I was able to watch it more times in the theater. And I watched the last episode of Sandman, episode 11. It was weird. I liked the cat story, but it was not that great. I liked the second part of the episode, the live action part. I thought that was really fun. I don't really remember what it is, but I remember liking it. So there you go. That's really all I have to say about Sandman. Then I watched Ranking of Kings, and I watched up to episode 18, I think. And so I'm almost done with it, but I didn't manage to finish before the end of the month. And I loved it. It was so good. There's so many things about Ranking of Kings that make me so happy. First of all, I really enjoy Boji as a character, and Kage. Their relationship is really fun. I like it a lot. I also think that the fact that they used real sign language in the anime was really interesting and really cool. I don't know anything about sign language or anything like that, but I think it's an interesting concept, and I really like that they executed it. Although I do think that there's some elements of annoyance with the way that things were translated into English because I watched it in a dub, and sometimes title cards or name cards or even the sign language was not given translations / subtitles to go along with it, and that kind of sucks. But I'm guessing that it was kind of a rush job because they're trying to get out the English version as fast as possible. But it is what it is. I don't really have too much of a problem with it overall. What else? I really enjoy Hilling as a character. She's a really great queen. I love that this is a fairy tale kind of story, but the stepmother is not the traditional evil stepmother queen from all of the other fairy tales. I really like Hilling a lot. She's a wonderful character. I like her character design. I like how haughty she is and how ridiculously weirdly tsundere she is about everything. I really love that she loves Boji. I really appreciate that a lot. I think it's a really great thing. I also like Boss, or at least I kind of like him. I'm not too sure about him. I definitely dislike Daida. He reminds me of Draco Malfoy. But as the story goes on and we learn more about him, it kind of makes sense why he is the way he is. He basically misinterpreted what his mother was telling him, and Hilling generally is also trying to protect Boji, but she kind of does it in a weird way, and so that ends up with her coming off as a villain early on in the season as well. But Boss is an interesting guy. I enjoy that he, sacrificed his son's strength to gain more. And then when his son was born, he was like, oh, I owe this kid so much. And also, he is my son. I want to protect him. And so he did his best, as much as he could at least. But then he still goes along with the stuff that Miranjo is telling him to do. And I'm really unsure. So far, Miranjo seems to be a girlfriend of Boss. And then she's like, okay, you need more power, so you need to have a kid. So you got to get it on with this giant lady. And then she gets jealous and kills the giant lady afterwards. And then she's like, okay, now you need another kid so you can be even stronger. So she gets Hilling. And then she gets jealous of Hilling also. And then she's trying to kill Hilling. So mostly it just seems like a crazy ex-girlfriend type of thing. But also maybe she was controlling Boss because Boss is a giant, right? And depending on how they want to play it, maybe he is not a human, and so she can control him because her ability only controls beasts, if I remember correctly. I know this because I think it worked on Gigan, or the Gigante race, which is literally just gigantes, like giants in Spanish, which I think is fun because they're kind of ogres, not giants, but whatever. So I think that's how that works. So if that's the case, that means she could control Boss, which might be why Boss is the way he is. But I'm not sure. I don't really want anyone to tell me I'm wrong either. This is not really me asking for clarification. It's just me talking about the possibilities as I'm watching this show. Overall, I don't know. I just really want Ranking of Kings, the manga, to come out in English. I think it'd be really, really good. But it doesn't seem to be possible. I think there is an English translation somewhere in a digital app. But I think it's one of those pay per episode or pay per chapter things, which I don't like. I think it's Comic-Key. But I do have a French edition. I tried to read it. It actually turns out to be much more difficult than I'm actually capable of reading. So I think I'm going to leave that there for now. But the Spanish edition from Spain, she recently just came out, so I might buy that. Although I am holding out hope that Mexico picks it up, because that's just a lot cheaper, one, and two, a lot more accessible than Spain. Although, Book Depository does send it directly to me, whereas with Mexico, I do have to go visit my grandparents or whatever to go get my books. But it's a little bit more, it's worth it if it's cheaper, right? So, I don't know. It doesn't really matter all that much, but I do want Ranking of Kings, the manga, to come to the US at some point. I would really like that a lot. And Ranking of Kings is wonderful. If you guys have not watched it, I definitely recommend you guys do. It's really, really, really good. Then I watched the rest of Andor. I watched the last couple episodes. And I actually ended up watching this with my parents while I was visiting them for Thanksgiving. My dad is a big Star Wars guy. And it's one of the things that we bonded over when I was a kid, watching Clone Wars on Friday or Saturday night whenever it came out. And I was telling him about Andor, so he wanted to watch it. And he actually likes it. He also likes the Bourne movies. So he was interested in watching someone that was, something directed by someone that was involved with those movies, which Tony Gilroy was. And so we watched it, and we watched it in Spanish. two things to note there. One, I think it's way better on the second viewing because I can watch all of it continuously, in a binge watch format, and I think that actually helps the pace of the show a lot. It's really, really good. And also, the fact that Diego Luna and Bix is actor, I think her name's Adria Arjona or something like that. I don't remember her name, but those two actually did their own voiceover for their Spanish version because they are Latin American actors. And it works really, really well. It's awesome to have characters have the exact same voices that they do in English, because usually what happens is that when you dub it to Mexican Spanish or Latin American Spanish, whichever version you want to call it, because sometimes there's like a generic Latin American translation, and sometimes each country does it by themselves, and usually for Mexico it seems to be the same thing for both of them. So usually what they do is they try to match the voice as best as they can with some other voice actor that they have, and usually you can start picking out like samey kind of things, and it kind of comes off weird when a certain actor doesn't have their matching voice actor. Like The Rock always has one voice actor, and if you ever change it, it's noticeable, and it's kind of weird, if that makes sense, like in Spanish dubbing. But overall, I think the dubbing was really good. I really like that Diego Luna did his own voice, and that the woman that played Vix did as well. And the show is really, really good. It's really exciting. I do think that the finale was a little bit weaker than I was expecting it to be, but only slightly. In general, the show was really, really good. It was a lot more realistic, maybe is the right word, or more like reflective of modern times. And it's one of the first times where I really see, actual meaningful politics explored in Star Wars where I'm aware of them, because usually, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand the allegory or the parallelism between the Empire and Nazis, or the Senate and stuff, and George Bush or whatever, all of these things that George Lucas put into his Star Wars movies early on. But now, I'm an adult, I'm kind of aware of political situations happening around me right now. And so having a show that kind of directly parallels them is very interesting, because I can appreciate it in that sense. And also I can just appreciate that it's really, really good storytelling, and it's really well done. It is a little bit slow sometimes, and I do agree with that. I think that it's a fair sentiment to have. But I don't think it's bad or boring or anything like that. So if you're someone that has that opinion, that's fair, but I really don't get it. So it is what it is. Then I watched Blue Lock. I watched a few episodes of Blue Lock, and finally, when Chigiri finally, got over his fear of his running, we finally got a great moment, a really good score, and finally, Blue Lock gets to that hype level that I felt while reading the manga, which is right there actually. But I do think that it's still a bit weak. I mean, it took 7 episodes to get to a really good high point. Whereas when I read the manga, I think it got really good really fast. It might not have been the case, but I do remember it that way. So I don't know. But finally, Chigiri, gets rid of his fear, and they get ready to face off against Team V, and I'm very, very excited to see where it goes. This is all new stuff that I have not read yet, so that's exciting. Although I do kind of am curious if I want to stop watching it and then watch it when I'm caught up to the volumes, or what, because usually I like it the first time around, and then usually the second time around it's not as exciting, which is also what happened with the anime, because I read the volumes first. So I'm not sure. I'm probably going to continue to watch it once as it comes out, week by week, but I haven't really decided yet, because it's all new stuff now. But overall, I am enjoying it. I do think it's nice that it finally got around to being really exciting and cool, and it finally had cool music, because, that's been kind of missing. And I think I said it last month, but the fact that Blue Lock, the anime, has way more tools at its disposal, and it's still not able to catch the awesome hype feeling that paper and ink managed to do kind of sucks, and it kind of is weak in my opinion, but it's fine, I guess. It's not that big of a deal. I watched the first 6 episodes of Golden Kamuy, which were really fun and really interesting. It's kind of wild, although I do want to say that I do think the Ainu side of things that are explored in Golden Kamuy don't work that well in the anime, because it feels like they just go by really fast, and if you're not like completely zeroed in, you're gonna miss a lot of information. I think it would have been better if they did it a different way, like, you know, put on some sort of brown filter on top and then had it written out or something. I think that might have been a little bit better, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm the only one that has this issue, I don't know, but I definitely want to continue to watch it. I'm definitely going to get the manga for this at some point, because I really, really like it, and I think the Ainu culture stuff is really, really interesting. So yeah, then I watched the first 10 episodes of Licorice Recoil, which was really good as well. I initially thought it was like a cute girls against kaiju kind of thing, but no, it turns out it's more like a Black Widow situation, and I really enjoyed it. I got right up to the part where what's her name, Chisato, Chisato, I think, has a problem with her heart, and the other girl, Takina, is really upset about it, and it's a really, really good story. I think it's funny that it has this really weird, like, happy-go-lucky, ditzy kind of vibe to it, and then it suddenly gets really serious, and then it goes back to being ditzy, and then it gets really serious again. It's really fun. It does have this kind of moe, girls with guns kind of thing that I really enjoy, and I definitely want to see if it can go beyond this first season of 13 episodes, because, well, I really like it, and I think it's a really cool story, but, you know, there's already a time limit set up for the end of the story, so I'm curious to see how they're going to resolve that, or if they're even going to try. And if we ever get a manga for this, I will definitely pick it up, because I thought it was real fun. And I watched Barbarians Season 2. This is a Netflix show. It's, I think, German, and it's about the battle of the Germanic tribes against the Roman legions that were trying to take over Germany at that time, or Germania, I think is what they call it. And it's really, really good. I think the second season is a bit better than the first one, or like, okay, actually, it's a huge upgrade in terms of like the like visuals of it, but I think the story is a little bit less intense and less interesting, because it's more of just like setting up for the next season. This big battle that happened was good and interesting, and it did work, but it was basically just a redo of the first season, and it's mostly also kind of functioning as set up for what comes next. And I liked it, but I think I liked it less than the first season. But overall, it was really, really good. I like it a lot. I think you guys should check it out for sure. And the Spanish dub on it is pretty good as well. So yeah. And then I watched 1899. This is the first season of the new show by the creators of Dark. There was some controversy here about the fact that it's basically the same as this other thing called Black Silence or Black Science, I don't remember, by some Brazilian comic book artist. This has been debunked a few times by a few different people, and also Daniel Green over at his channel actually did a whole video talking about these differences in situations, but it's not the same at all, except for some very generic science fiction iconography, I guess, is what the best to call it. But I think it's good, but it just isn't my type of series. I don't really enjoy it. I didn't really like Dark either, even though it's a really good show. In fact, I think I never watched the ending to Dark. And I think the issue is, and maybe I'm going to sound like I'm stupid, it's that the setup is there's this mystery, and the show is about unraveling this mystery and why things are the way they are. I get that. I find that interesting, but I also feel like it meanders way too much. And if you watch the making of 1899, you realize that that's actually the case, because even one of the people working on the show talked about how the main writer, which is the woman in the duo that does it, I can't remember her name. It's really hard to say. She is very open to kind of meandering and kind of changing things on the go. And so if that's the case, it also means that a lot of stuff that they do is just kind of like all over the place. And it doesn't really work for me that it takes so long for this mystery to unravel, and that, the episodes sometimes feel like there's nothing to them, which is also one of the issues that I had with Sandman. Because even though I liked the Sandman show, I felt a lot of times that, okay, you're developing these people, but then they die or they get removed from the story, and then there's no point in them having been there and wasting an hour of my, TV watching time trying to understand this character that then doesn't mean anything, right? And I think that happens in Sandman. And it didn't really happen in that way in 1899, but I definitely lost interest in the show, like in 4 episodes, like in the middle of the season, because of that. But also because I actually ended up getting a spoiler for the show by accident. I was on Twitter and I got a spoiler, and it's one of those spoilers that even without context ruins like the experience, which are pretty rare and far between. Usually it's like character deaths, but this one was like the twist. And without, if I knew the twist, and it doesn't really matter how to get there anymore, so it kind of ruins the show, in my opinion. But I was already kind of over the show by the time I got that spoiler, so it's not that big of a deal. It didn't really affect me that much. My opinion of the show is still based on like the fact that I just don't like these types of shows, and it is what it is. But 1899, if you do like that mystery thing that kind of goes nowhere for a while and then everything just kind of crashes into you, you might like it. It's not really for me, but I watched it because I was with my family and that's what they wanted to watch. So I wasn't gonna say no, we can't watch this because I don't like it, right? So yeah. Anyway, that's it for the watch list, the stuff that I've been watching this month. I thought it was gonna be more / longer, but it's still gonna be like an hour-long video. So yeah, but let's move on to the reading list. So I'll see you guys in the next clip. Okay, and then let's move on to what I've been reading. So let's look at the TBR, and I'll tell you just what I haven't finished reading yet, because I'm probably not going to finish reading them. For context, I am recording this the 29th, and it's supposed to go on up on the channel on the 30th. And the watch list section, or the what I've been watching section, will be recorded on the 30th before I release the video. So yeah, as of the 29th, I have not managed to finish most of my novel reading and my comic book reading. So I didn't get to finish Second Chance Swordman, although I did continue reading it. I think I'm about 40% through the novel. It's good. It's just like I'm out of practice with reading lit RPG type novels, and they're not really difficult to read, but they kind of take a different mood for me to read. So sometimes I just can't really get into it, and so I just don't go back to reading it more often. But I do want to try to finish reading it by the end of the year and review it on the channel here this coming month. Now, I also didn't even get started on Lord of Goblins. I did take it with me during Thanksgiving break, and the reality is that I actually ended up not reading much throughout all of Thanksgiving break because I was either busy helping my mom cook or just hanging out with my family, watching the World Cup and or watching TV at night. And, my ability to read was greatly diminished because I had not foreseen these circumstances, even though I knew what was going to happen when I got home. So I didn't get to finish Lord of Goblins or Fallen Star. I actually didn't even start this one either. And I also did not start Our World's Magic #2. Again, these are going to be passed over to next month. So I'm going to get around to them by the end of the year for sure. I also did start reading Pirates of Venus. This is another Edgar Rice Burroughs novel. This one is about getting to Amtor, or Venus. And I got about 36 pages in. This is also due to the fact that, Edgar Rice Burroughs writes really easy writing, and I've been on an Edgar Rice Burroughs kick lately, so even though I didn't get around to reading the other things that I took with me, I did get around to reading this because, at the end of the day, I am kind of a mood reader, so it fucks me up sometimes. But, it is what it is. I'll move on to next month and read those next month, and we'll see how it goes. I also did not get around to reading Dark One, the Sanderson comic book, mostly because I just, like I said, didn't get to read much. But that is it. I've also not read Devil's Line Volumes 2 and 3. I did a review for the first Devil's Line book a few days ago. And, well, I didn't like it, but I do want to read them because, well, I have them, so I might as well do so. So I will try to read them either today or tomorrow night before the end of the month. So it is what it is. Hopefully I get around to it. If I don't, it is not a big deal. Everything else on my list I did read, and then some. I actually ended up reading a lot of manga. So, yeah. But before we get into the manga section, let's actually talk very briefly about the one novel that I did read, which is The Return of Tarzan, or Tarzan #2, whatever you want to call it. And it's a pretty good novel. I've mentioned it before a few times. I've also done a review on the channel already, so feel free to just watch that if you don't really care and skip this section of the video. But The Return of Tarzan, Tarzan #2, this is basically the second half of the full Tarzan story before the character got popular and Edgar Rice Burroughs made 22 or 23 other novels to try to, bank on that, but also to give people what they wanted, right? So this picks up immediately after the end of the first novel, and it actually finishes telling the story of Jane and Tarzan. So it ends with them getting married. This isn't really a spoiler. I mean, this is 100 and something years old, so it is what it is. But it's pretty good. It also introduces us to Law, the priestess of Opar, which is a hidden lost city in the heart of Africa. It's also some sort of Atlantis, thing. And it's a city of gold. And Law is the priestess for the flaming god, or, the sun. And it's pretty good. I also really enjoy this because there's more complexity to Tarzan's views on, race and stuff like that. Because one of the major criticisms of the first novel is that Tarzan is racist. Although if you read the novel, you can't really say that that's true. But, the writing definitely is, because Edgar Rice Burroughs is from 1912 or earlier, actually. So there's definitely going to be things like that prop up. But I do think that Tarzan itself, like as a character, or himself as a character, is not really racist. He's just like not knowledgeable about stuff like that. And so we do get to see him kind of develop that knowledge here in this novel. And I find that really complex and really interesting. And I quite liked it. He meets some Arabic people. He realizes that white people are just as bad as everyone else, if not worse sometimes. And, he actually becomes friends with some native African, black people. So, he isn't just killing them out of nowhere, like in the first novel. And, yeah, overall, a really, really good novel. I definitely want to keep reading this, but I haven't been able to get my hands on The Beast of Tarzan, which is the third novel in the series. Although that one I think is more like a collection of short stories. I'm not really sure how it works, but I did get my hands on the fourth one. So I'm slowly but surely developing my Tarzan collection. So I hope to get all of it. And, there are modern editions that I could buy from the Edgar Rice Burroughs company, but I don't like them because they're print on demand. They're also hardcover, and they're like $30 a piece. And, well, if they're print on demand, $30 is not worth it. So, it is what it is. But there you go. The Return of Tarzan. That's the only novel I read this month, and it was a really good one. So I really enjoyed myself with that one. Now let's move on to the comic books, and I don't really have too many, and I've already mentioned all of them in my haul video. So if you saw that and you don't really feel like sitting through the whole thing again, feel free to skip this section of the video as well. So yeah, sorry, I got a little tongue-tied there, but yeah. So the least we could do, number 3. This one develops the background of one of the characters and why she's always angry. It also reveals a connection that character has with our main character here in the blonde hair. And it turns out that her father, the blonde girl's father, is the leader of the military, and he also is part of the reason why this other character is so angry and so sad all the time. And so it's a really interesting kind of look at that. And overall, really, really good. I think the art style could be a little bit better here. But everything else about the story is quite good. I really enjoy it. I like it a lot. And the vibe of it is also really, really good. So, yeah, there we go. The least we can do, number 3. And then Bella and Valeria, number 5. This one was a bit disappointing. It kind of ended open-ended, so it can continue. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to. And overall, I think it just ended too quickly. It could have lasted a few more issues, and it would have been a much more satisfying story. But, it is what it is. I'm not too angry about it, but I would have liked it to be, what's it called? A little bit better. But overall, I mean, I did enjoy it, and I like the art style a lot, so I'm pretty happy with what I read. But I don't know if I'll buy the collected edition. I do want to buy the Ablaze Sumerian volumes, but they're all 25 bucks a piece, so they're kind of expensive. Then we have Dark Knights of Steel number 8. This one was good. It was mostly about those two characters on the cover, and the realization that war is definitely coming, and some weird stuff happening with the Joker, who happens to have a Green Lantern ring. So that's pretty interesting, and it's a good issue, but you know, it is what it is. Tom Taylor is good at the non-canon stuff, not so good at the canon stuff, at least from what I've heard. And you know, I don't really have too much else to say. Gun Hunting number 3, really, really good stuff. This one I think is halfway through the run right now, and well, it's a really good story. I really, really enjoy it, and we focus on Joanna finally fighting the other chick that is against her. And overall, really, really enjoyable. It's definitely the finest kind of pulp noir, like Edward Baker says right there. So, yeah. Definitely want to get more hard case crime novels and comic books, but, well, I can't ever find them physically. So, you know, I'll have to get them digitally or online sometime. Moon Knight 17. Didn't really have too much to say about this one. Although the vampire stuff is kind of interesting, even though I don't like vampires all that much as, you know, mythological creatures and stuff. I just want this run to end so I can stop collecting it. And I feel like I say that every time, but it's because I like this run. I just feel like it's dragging a little bit, and I don't really feel like stopping like my collecting of it. Like, I still want to continue because it has like a certain level of sentimentality to it. And I really like Moon Knight as a character. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being weird about it. I'm not sure. Lord of the Jungle. This is a Tarzan comic book. And, well, this is a retelling of the first Tarzan novel. It gets halfway through, and it does a few little things here and there to change the story, probably for a more smooth retelling and also for a more kind of easier way to link up to the story that this is supposed to follow. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know why they called it Lord of the Jungle instead of Tarzan. I think it has to do with licensing issues of the name. But, I mean, this is an authorized story, so I don't see why they wouldn't be allowed to use the Tarzan name. But, you know, I'm not too sure. I'm sure YouTuber Todd Luck knows, but I haven't asked him yet, so I don't know. But, yeah, Lord of the Jungle, number 1. Now, I definitely recommend that one if you guys are interested in Tarzan at all. Then we have Sheena, another Jungle Person comic book. This one is the end of this arc, and I hope that we get another series for Sheena here soon. Because I quite like the character a lot, and also I feel like this didn't really end that well. Like, it ended well in the story points, but it also didn't feel like an uplifting, like, oh yeah, it sucks that it's over, but I'm happy kind of thing. It just kind of like fizzled out at the end. I don't know if that's me or if it's because it'd been a while since I read a Sheena issue or what, but you know, it was just kind of not the best. But, you know, I really enjoyed my time with this comic book most of the time. And I do want to give it a read-through again where I read all of it in one go. And hopefully I enjoy it even more. And I also just really love these covers a lot. Whoever decided to give Lucio Perillo, you know, carte blanche with all of these covers did a great job there. We have Titans United Blood Pact. This one's all right. I don't really dislike it. And also, I feel like since I'm halfway through the series already, I might as well just finish collecting it. It's kind of interesting, but also not that great. Like, I don't know. I mostly just like the character interactions between some of the characters, particularly in this case, Starfire with, what's her boyfriend's name? Dick Grayson? And yeah, I don't know. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not horrible. But it's not amazing either. It's just the last, you know, normal superhero thing that I collect besides Moon Knight. And I just want to see it through before I move on from that type of stuff and mostly focus only on the, what's it called, the indie stuff, right? Then we have finally Death Dealer number 7, finally back to Kerr and his storyline where he goes down into the underworld. And overall, good stuff. I like it. I'm really excited. Although I do think that the artist changed here. We have Escorza on the art this time, even though last time I think it was someone else. I don't remember their name, but I know that they were really, really good at drawing. But I don't know. The female characters still do have that kind of Frank Frazetta plumpness to them. The male characters do as well, but it's not as well done or pronounced as the first artist. But I'll get used to it. It's not that different. It's only slightly different, so that makes it really easy. Also with the artist, like the painter, the inker, being the same person, it makes it a lot easier to go with the flow, which sometimes isn't really the case. So overall, I'm happy with that issue, even if it did change a little bit. And well, there really isn't anything else to say about these comic books. So let me put them somewhere else, and then I'll come back and talk about the manga. Okay, so we're back. I have a lot of manga to show you, so I'm gonna have to do it in chunks, and it's not gonna be in order. So if you were interested in seeing it chronologically, I do apologize. I just ended up realizing it was a bunch and just started putting it in piles next to me, and now it's all out of order. So let's start with the small stuff. Start with Eden Zero number 18. Really good stuff. However, the ending was a little bit lackluster in my opinion, mostly because it reveals a character death, but it doesn't really have an impact in my opinion. Like the hook or the what's it called, the suspense at the end of the manga doesn't work that well, although I was spoiled of this character death, so it might be because I already knew about it, but I do think that it kind of fell flat a little bit even then. But if you're someone that doesn't know and you read this, let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong. But overall, it was a good volume. It was the one time I think Mashima missed a little bit, but I'm excited to get the next one here soon, so I don't really have that much of a problem with it. Then we have Komi Can't Communicate number 19 and 20 and 21. And like I said yesterday in my haul video, I don't care that people say it's slow or that it doesn't go anywhere, that it spins its wheels. It makes me really happy when I read it, and so I'm going to continue to do so, even though it does have those issues. So it is what it is. If you don't like it, don't read it. It's not that big a deal. But for me, it's something that really makes me very happy. Reminds me a lot of high school. And the good things that I did in high school, and it makes me pretty happy. So yeah, another one that makes me really happy, although kind of for different reasons, is Beauty and the Feast number 4. I wanted to get number 5 this month, but well, I wasn't able to find it, so it is what it is. But this one's real good. We do get kind of the development of the romance between the characters finally. And a lot of it is interesting because, yes, it is an age gap romance. So the high schooler is the male character, and the female character, her Shuko, is 30, I think. So there's like a 15-year difference between them. But a lot of the things that are like romantic about them is mostly that like she is someone that wants to, kind of help people that she cares about. And she does this through cooking for them. And Yamato, the boy, actually happens to be someone that reminds her a lot of her husband who died, and so she kind of connects with him in that sense, and also she kind of like just ends up liking him. Also, I think in Japan it's just not that weird for giant age gaps to happen still. It is now in the West, but 10, 20, 40 years ago it wasn't that weird. So I don't know. I don't really care too much. I don't really mind. I just really am happy with this series when I read it. It's just really wholesome and lovable and just really enjoyable. And I always love food manga. And so, Beauty and the Feast is a food manga, so I'm going to continue reading it, right? And I just really enjoy it. And I also like that they always have a little cute cover page that's in color at the beginning. So, yeah, there we go. That's Beauty and the Feast number 4. Then we have Kakegurui, and I liked it, actually. I thought it was really interesting, kind of a psychological thriller. But I do think I'm going to switch to the anime for this because the price on this, $15 a volume, is a bit much for my taste. They are kind of hefty volumes, but I don't think I'm that interested in the story or think that this story is going to be, important enough or interesting enough to keep me, wanting more as I continue to read it. So I'll either switch to digital if I ever find it on sale, or switch to the anime, which I think is on Netflix, so I can basically watch it for free. So, I don't know. I do think I'm going to get rid of this in my December on-haul video. But I got it for like $6 at one point, or like $3 or something like that. I don't remember. So, it was a really good deal at the time. I just don't think I'm going to continue reading it after this. So, and it is what it is, but it did enjoy it, and I think the artwork is really cool, and the premise of the story is interesting. It's just not something that I think is going to interest me very much going forward. So, if that makes sense, it makes sense, and if it doesn't, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling odd today. I don't know if I'm expressing myself correctly, but it's too late now. I'm committed to this video, so I'm going to leave it as is. The World After the Fall. I'm not committed to dropping this, but I'm not committed to reading this either. I think I'm going to wait for the next issue or the next volume and read it and decide. Mostly because I think that the world building here is not necessarily complex, but the way it's explained is very poor. And it makes me annoyed when that happens. And also, it bothers me that there's a lot of time spent trying to explain this world building of the tower, but then it stops mattering because immediately after that, the character just opens a portal into a different universe and ends up, ascending or moving on to a different plane of existence called Chaos. So it's just like, why'd you waste half of this book trying to explain this poorly if you were just going to get rid of it immediately afterwards? So I don't know. I think if I read the novel, maybe it would be easier, but based on the webtoon, it's not very easy to understand. And it kind of annoys me. The one good thing, though, is that they did add a little bit of a glossary here at the back to explain some things, just in case. But, it didn't really help all that much. However, at least the artwork is pretty good. It's very similar to Solo Leveling. And that's, I think, because this artist is from the same group. I think they're from UNREAD, I think is the name of the group that does this. Let me double check because I might be wrong. No, this is also from UNREAD Studios, so that's interesting. It's from the same group that did Solo Leveling, so that's good. But the world building is just kind of poor, and I also don't like the character that much. He's kind of a generic, edgy guy, so it is what it is. We have Dinosaur Sanctuary, and I love this one. I actually really, really enjoyed it. I do still need to make a first impressions review for it, but basically, if you ever watched dinosaur documentaries as a kid, and if you ever got lucky enough to watch Prehistoric Park with Nigel Marvin, I don't remember his name, but if you ever watched that, and you wanted something similar, something that reminded you of that, this is basically what that is. It's basically a slice of life story with some very human drama about the zookeepers that take care of dinosaurs in a dinosaur zoo. And it's really, really good. And the art style is actually really, really awesome. And it looks real nice. Let me see if I can pull up a good picture of a dinosaur here. There you go. It's also very, very scientific. So at the end of every chapter, if there's something important to say about the dinosaurs or something that's shown here, the research consultant here, Shinichi Fujiwara, actually leaves you a note where he explains, why things happened the way they did, why they drew a dinosaur this way or that. And he also tells you about his time as a paleontologist and why he got into paleontology and the sort of paleontology he does, which is using real life alive animals to try to decide how dinosaurs acted and interacted and were built back in the day. And it's really, really good. I actually really enjoy all of these little what's called lab logs that he calls them a lot. They're very, very satisfying to read. And the story of the characters is also really, really good. There's the damaged character, and then the girl next door main character, and that kind of more like serious mom type character, and then the old timer boss, and the womanizer doctor. There's a lot of different characters here that are really appealing. So definitely recommend it if you guys are interested in dinosaurs at all. It's also just really satisfying to see dinosaurs and dragons in manga, because even though they're such classic creatures, they don't actually end up showing up that much as a main theme for manga. Usually it's more of an action kind of thing. So yeah, that's it for that. Let's see. Then we have Saint Seiya numbers 4 and 5. At least some of 4 and most of 5. This is actually the Silver Saints saga, the Silver Saints arc, which is only 5 chapters. But, well, back in the day, these chapters were like 40 pages long, so they're actually pretty dense. And, well, I already did a review for it, but basically it's the weakest part of Sanctuary, the main first saga of Saint Seiya. And mostly it's weak because it's short, but also because it's mostly just like, oh, we Silver Saints are so strong, we're 10 times stronger than the Bronze Knights, and then the Bronze Knights show up to fight them, and then all the Bronze Knights win. Sure, Shiryu loses his eyeballs or something, but like, in general, they still manage to beat them pretty easily. And well, then it doesn't really add up that these guys are 10 times stronger, right? Yes, most of the time they lose because they're overconfident, but this also kind of proves the point. Like, these guys should not be overconfident. Even if they're 10 times stronger, they're supposed to be superior characters and fighters because they were chosen as a higher level of knight, right, or saint. So, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those like anime things that just like, it doesn't make sense, but it just has to happen so that the story can move forward. And, you know, it is what it is. But it is definitely the weakest part of Sanctuary for sure. But I did enjoy it nonetheless because I like Saint Seiya in general. So, yeah. Then we have The Beginning After the End. Again, this is another series that didn't really manage to convince me. This is a Tapas thing, and I think this is still also Yen Press. It's not Ise Press yet. But first thing I didn't like about this is the price point. It's $20, but it's only about 100 and something pages, whereas the other Ise and Yen Press manhwa are all more like 400 pages, 350 or more pages for the same price. So this one kind of feels like, you know, I'm being stolen from, but you know, it is what it is. Also, this is basically Mushoku Tensei, but like Western, I guess. I think the artist, the writer is Western. He might not be. I think he's like an Asian person, but I'm pretty sure he's like an Asian American, although I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But this is basically Mushoku Tensei. It's good. I don't like say that as a bad thing. It's just like, if you read Mushoku Tensei, you'll feel like you've read this also. But it does change a little bit. It also has cultivation aspects, which are not really part of Mushoku Tensei, at least not in the same way. Most of that stuff is mostly just gamelit. This has gamelit elements, but it also has more like wuxia cultivation type stuff, which is kind of interesting. It's a little interesting change, but you know, it is still Mushoku Tensei, so you know, it is what it is. But I'm not really convinced by it, but hopefully I can get issue number 2 or volume number 2 for relatively cheap soon, so I can you know, record another video for it and finally decide if I like it or not. Okay, let's keep going. There's still a lot left, so this is going to be a long ass video, and it's not going to be because I watched a bunch of anime. So yeah, then we have Crazy Food Truck number 2. Not much to say here. I liked it. It continues the story, and well, we only have one issue or one volume left, so I'll just leave my thoughts for that video when I eventually get around to making it. But overall, I did enjoy it, and I thought it was fun. I have Record of Ragnarok number 4. This almost catches up to the first season of the anime. However, kind of sadly, or maybe not sadly, but kind of oddly, the next season of the anime, or at least the first part of the next season, is coming out sometime in January. And it's also going to mean that we're again behind the anime in terms of the physical release because, well, the next couple issues or the next couple volumes of Record of Ragnarok are going to still be coinciding with that season. So I don't know. I was hoping that we could get new content and I could start reading new things of Record of Ragnarok, you know, this year, but I guess it doesn't seem to be the case. But, you know, I still enjoy it and I really, really like it a lot. So, yeah, Record of Ragnarok is real fun. And we have 4 volumes of Witch Hand Atelier. We have number 4, we have number 5, number 6, and number 7. And, well, Witch Hand Atelier is wonderful. I love it. It's so, so good. And hopefully, if I have enough time and money this month, I will manage to collect the rest of it by the end of the year, which would be really, really nice, so I can be caught up for it next year. But I don't know if that's going to be possible or not. But yeah, overall, really, really like it. I think this this story arc with the second test and then moving on to Keyfree's background is really, really good, and I like it a lot. And well, I'm going to leave my thoughts for another video because I do want to make a arc review series for this. So I'll get around to that later. But overall, I love it a lot. I think that if you guys like good artwork and you enjoy an interesting little like magic school kind of series with a lot of dark, deep, kind of things in the background, you'll definitely enjoy Witch Head Atelier for sure. Also, it's the winner of an Eisner Award. Yeah. So, Eisner Award. So that's pretty cool. All of the new printings have this sticker on them, which is cool. I don't know if that's only for this year or if that's for the rest of the time. I don't know, but overall, really good stuff. And of course, really amazing artwork. So yeah, that's it for that. And then finally, we're almost done. We have Vinland Saga. So I had some issues with Vinland Saga this month. Oh, sorry. I almost dropped all the manga. So I had some issues with Vinland Saga this month because I bought volume 12, and the first version of it, or the first volume I got of it, the first copy, actually had a textbook in the middle of it. So I had to go get another one, and I just finished reading it this morning. So that's pretty exciting. But I did get through the third arc of Vinland Saga this month, which was really, really great. I really enjoyed the Eastern Expansion arc, although I do want to say that I really would have liked to see Thorfinn and Einar and all of them actually make it to Greece and not just time skip it. But, it's fine. Maybe some other time, Makoto Yukimura will come back to the story and draw, what happened in Greece, or show us in some flashbacks in the next arc here. So, yeah, let's start with Volume 7, where I only read the last chapter because that's the start of the Eastern Expedition. Then I got all the way through 8, which is really, really good. I love Gudrid as a character. She's wonderful. I also really like her name. And we have the issues with Hilda and the beginning of the Succession War, which is really, really good. I also like Hilda a lot, but I don't like her name that much. And also, her character is just too dark. That sounds funny because, Thorfinn is, probably the darkest character in the whole manga, but, I don't know how to word it. She just seems I just want her to forgive Thorfinn, and I understand why she can't and won't, but it really sucks when you're oh, it's about to get down, it's going to be really cool, and then she's like, oh, Thorfinn, remember, I'm going to kill you if you do anything too egregious, and it kind of sucks, but it's also really good, and I don't know how to feel about it, but I like her as a character a lot for sure. And we have this one where we meet Garm, and he manages to do some shitty things during the Succession War. And again, I really like Garm a lot. He's basically the spiritual successor to Torkel, and he might be related to him. I'm not really sure. It's possible. And he's basically the Torkel to Thorfinn's Thors, if that makes any sense. So he is the what's it called? The other side of the coin for Thorfinn. And I like that a lot. Although technically speaking, Canute is the other side of Thorfinn, but this guy is more the person that makes Thorfinn have to interact with his old reality, if that makes sense. Now we have Vinland Saga number 11. This one I think is Thorfinn on the cover, and it's real good stuff. I really enjoyed this one as well, for sure. Like I said, the ending of the Eastern Expedition arc isn't that amazing to me, because I really would have liked to see them in Greece, but overall, I enjoyed myself with it. The the Sigurd storyline was pretty interesting as well. I actually liked that a lot, and I really enjoyed the development of a character that, Halfdan, that we just thought was a shitty guy at the beginning of the story, and he comes back and he's still a shitty guy, but there's also more to him, so I really like that a lot. I think it's real good. And so this also begins the Vinland Saga arc, or the Vinland arc, and I'm really excited about that. I'm very curious to see how they're going to interact with Native Americans and how much is going to deviate from real life. We have very little documentation of that time period, if I remember correctly, so it's going to be interesting to see, how much Makoto Yukimura does to try to make it realistic, but also to make it fit into his own story, and also just curious to see how he's going to depict Native Americans, which is going to be really, really cool and very interesting. And of course, there's already some seeds of some dark happenings behind the scenes, because Ivan definitely has weapons with him that he shouldn't have, and someone is chasing Thorfinn and crew across the ocean, and I don't know who it is. I thought it was Thorfinn, actually, but you know, it can't be, so I'm curious to see what's going to happen. But overall, I really enjoyed my reading month this month, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and let me know what you've been reading this month and what you've been watching as well. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching the video, and see you guys later.